Knesset member Yuli Edelstein, shalom.
Shalom.
Thank you very much for coming to our studio.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, let's understand, are you establishing a new political party?
That would be correct to say that we are right now in the midst of an attempt to organize the political party that would answer the real need of, I would estimate, hundreds of thousands of potential voters who are, on the one hand, holding what is defined in this country as right-wing views. The land of Israel is important to them, free economy is important to them, judicial reform is important to them, but are not prepared to vote for the present coalition because of the draft exemption legislation and because of the oversized influence of different coalition partners, especially ultra-Orthodox parties.
So let's understand, because many people from the right are also more traditional, more connected to the world of Torah, of Judaism, and are trying to understand, are you against the world of Torah? God forbid, we know where you're coming from, but just explain to us how you want to make a difference, how you want to act on this issue.
I think actually it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that I'm trying to save the world of Torah, because we who live in Israel, we see what's going on. And in the end, if the situation will continue like that, meaning that no ultra-Orthodox Jews will be drafted to the army, and at the same time they will get serious economic support from the state. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, every reasonable person would understand that it's not that every young ultra-Orthodox man is studying 10, 15 hours a day in the yeshiva. That's not the situation. Mm-hmm. If this will continue like that, in the end, there will be a government that would, I would say, start a very marginal policy towards the ultra-Orthodox community, and as a result could ruin the world of Torah and could ruin the yeshiva world. That's why I'm trying all the time to come with practical solutions for the issue, and never at any stage I suggested that we immediately draft everyone or we close yeshivas or something like that. There are tens of thousands of ultra-Orthodox youth as we speak at this very moment who are not in the world of the yeshiva in practical terms, and they could and should be drafted.
And many of them even want to be drafted, right? Sometimes it's about the leadership.
You're touching such a sensitive point, because after I had all that, shall we call it a scandal, in the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, and I was removed from the post of the chair of the committee because of my attempt to pass serious draft legislation, I said to myself, and I heard all the interviews with my colleagues from ultra-Orthodox parties and even some rabbis calling me names and cursing and whatever. And at the same time, I'm a religious person. I'm well connected in this country. You have to go sometimes to a wedding where the groom and bride are ultra-Orthodox, or lehavdil, as they say, to pay a shiva call. And I was very tense. I thought that when I would come in a hall like that, in an audience like that, I would feel the hostility, I would feel the tension. And first time, and second time, and third time, the exact opposite happened. Oh. People would approach me and say, Yishar Koach, and we want you to succeed. And so I think that you are really correct. I know it's not an opinion poll, but it's empirically, it's a good test that there is what they call the askuna, they call it the leadership of the ultra-Orthodox community, and at the same time, many people are just waiting for the change in the situation to be more integrated in the society.
So what are your friends in the Likud? What does Netanyahu not understand? It's all about politics?
I think it's all about politics, but I really can't speak for them, because it's very difficult and very painful for me to try to understand what happens to people. And I remember them, standing together with me on different, podiums and scenes and talking about the same values and talking about the same issues. And right now, look, then there's a demand to vote for a massive draft exam, they vote. And there's a demand not to support sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, and they run out of the hall. It's something that it's, as I've said, very painful, not just difficult to explain.
On the political level, people, you'll hear it now more and more as you're going really into this process of a new party, will say you're out there to topple the right, to topple the Netanyahu government.
Well, and on the other hand, the left wing say that we are proxy of Netanyahu, and he sent us to try to be his coalition partners after the elections.
So what's the truth?
The truth is that we are not hiding the truth. We speak the truth. The truth is that what the country badly needs is a broad Zionist government, and the broad Zionist government can be formed only with the participation of Likud and religious Zionism, but at the same time, it can't be over-dependent on ultra-Orthodox factions or marginal factions, and I think that only a broad government can take real care of the issues that are so important to the right.
So do you oppose a government led by Netanyahu?
I say loud and clear, the party that I will be part of, or I will lead, whatever happens, will not be, as they say in the Knesset, the 61st finger of any coalition, because any narrow government, never mind who is heading it, and never mind how talented the person who is heading it is, every narrow government will be a big trouble for the state of Israel, won't last long, and won't be able to take care of issues.
It seems that everything that's happening today is in wake of October 7th in every field. And after October 7th, there was a feeling and even dialogue about the fact that the Haredim understand and they're with us. And it didn't happen. Are you disappointed? On a personal level?
Very much so.
Public
Very much so. Though, objectively speaking, I understand that the government was too slow, occupied with other issues, and the army was too slow. Because there was this spirit probably for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but then nothing happened. And at the same time, speaking by the way of right and at the same time dependence on ultra-Orthodox factions, that after October 7, I'm saying that as a former chair of Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, I immediately started, checking what do we do right in order for October 7 not to happen in Judea and Samaria. We were in real danger. The young men all were taken to the reserve duty. In many communities, there were just women and children staying there. Obvious present and immediate dangers, they say. So it turned out that in many ultra-Orthodox even towns and communities in Judea and Samaria, it was impossible to form any kind of self-defense.
Local.
Because except for some, what we call in Hebrew, Baalei Tshuva, some of those who returned to Judaism after being secular, yes, no one knew how to operate. No one knew how to operate with an M16 rifle. So it was a real challenge and a real problem. And this is part of the motivation for us to make sure that ultra-Orthodox youth, especially in Judea and Samaria, but not only there, get military training, serve in the army, and will be able to defend themselves and their families.
So it's two things, right? There's two motivations here. It's the practical issue that you mentioned now, and the ideological Zionist issue and ideas and what we believe in.
Well, first of all, absolutely. But, I know probably it doesn't sound like a good political slogan, but I'm much more worried about the practical side of it. Because, yes, equality is a very important term, and I'm not saying that cynically, but there's no equality between a combat officer in the Golani Brigade or paratroopers and someone who is, serving
in and out of the office.
Exactly. And so it's not about total equality, but it's about sharing the burden and about the possibility to give people who are serving for 400, 500, 600 days in the Miluim, at least to see their families and their children once in a while. So it's about sharing the burden.
Last but not least, and we're broadcasting this interview, of course, around the world. You were Minister of Diaspora Affairs. At this point, after 3 years since the beginning of the war, since October 7th, what do you see as the role of Jewish diaspora? Maybe you'll say the opposite. What is our role in terms of our brothers and sisters around the world?
It's both, because on one hand, I think after October 7, we got incredible support from the Jewish diaspora all around the world. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we may be ashamed to say that, but it's a fact. Unfortunately, among Jews around the world are those who totally lost their way or their mind or whatever you call it, and are part of all these Jews for Palestine and all this unexplainable self-hating approach.
Some would say also the support of Mandani.
Among other things, it's very easy to look the other way and say, no, but he promised to take care of the poor. At the same time, he expresses open support for Hamas and the others, but never mind, we'll close our eyes. But having said all that, and you're absolutely correct in asking the question the way you did, we shouldn't forget that the diaspora Jewry is also now under a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. And things unheard of are happening in London, in Paris, and in the United States. And even in the United States, there are people who say, I prefer not to wear kippah outside, my skull cap outside. Agree with me that 10 years ago, you would laugh at a person like that and say, you're in New York, you are not in, Marseille for that matter. But they need us. They need to feel the connection to the state of Israel. And we sometimes are too busy with things inside. And we just expect that they will help us and express solidarity with us, and we don't have to do anything. That's not the way, and I'm sure that we will be able to strengthen the connection there.
Okay, so it's both ways. Knesset member Yuli Edelstein, by the way, is there a name for the party?
Not yet.
Not yet. But you're working on it. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.